All right, the broadcast is live. Hello, everyone. So my name is Chris Barnes, and I'm filling in with the much more experienced interviewer, Brandon Lovejoy. He is not having the stable internet connection required for this type of thing today, so I'm going to help fill in. And today I'll be doing the bi-weekly interviews with Brandon Fancher from the Clarion team, and he's going to update us with their progress on EdenOS and everything to do with the great work that they're doing over there at Clarion. Brandon, great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for jumping in on such short notice, Chris. I know Brandon was having some internet connectivity issues. We normally start this out around 10:15, and so a little bit later than usual. But man, Brandon was like, "Okay, I'm gonna ping Chris right now, see if he can jump on." And sure enough, man, you were here in no time, ready to jump in and serve. So, gosh, man, thank you. Kudos to you for being on.
I'm appreciative of the opportunity that he thought of me to jump in. So I was typing away. I'm working on the Eden the recent election there, and getting organized. And so this is a nice diversion from that, and happy to be here. Thank you.
And as we were saying, it's kind of turned out it's luxurious for us here because we have a producer now behind the scenes, so we can say stuff like, let me talk to the producers here, or we've got a bug in our ear. So in other news, Brandon Lovejoy is the bug in our ear now, and he's going to be facilitating the questions and the comments. I think that we could get used to this.
Yeah, we're being spoiled now. Last time I tried this, I had to click the right screen when I was doing a Mike Manfredi, and I think it went okay, but it gets a little, when you're trying to make sure you line it all up and pay attention to what they're saying so you can appropriately respond.
I got to say, I was rewatching that one yesterday. I didn't want to be caught off guard with a reference to that call and be like, wait, what? And I actually had a moment where I was like, is he talking and driving right now? Because I don't think I could do that. So you pulled it off very nicely.
Thank you. Yeah. You probably saw the one hiccup where I pulled myself into the screen and it was supposed to be Mike, and that was the old blip back and forth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Brandon is actually in a mobile bunker at an undisclosed location.
We won't tell anyone your secrets.
Yeah.
So you have a slide deck. Is this?
I do. I have a boring slide deck. I was telling Brandon earlier, or maybe you, Chris, that this isn't going to be the big philosophical. Let's do a deep dive into the nature and being of things and governance. Although I'm sure we'll tangent every once in a while. But no, this is going to be the nitty gritty. EdenOS development update. We're going to talk about, we'll go over the roadmap again. We'll talk about where we've been, what we've accomplished in the last 2 weeks since we last talked, and where we're heading, just generally how things are going. It's important for us to provide a, really transparent view into what we're doing as the Clarion team, as we're serving the Eden community in this effort with the work on EdenOS. So that's the reason for this right here. And I can share that slide deck without further ado. We can dive in. Or
sure thing. And just so you know, this is great, even though this might feel dry-ish because it's a PowerPoint and a slide deck. I think the fact that the communication is so open that is the right way to go. It keeps the community informed and up to speed and allows them to engage and ask questions as we go, instead of just waiting a few months and a final product gets delivered. It allows for that back and forth. So I applaud you guys for doing this and taking the time and being open to feedback as you work your way along the roadmap. So no, I think this is great. Cool.
Well, we'll dive in. I've got that screen shared now, and if our producer could pan over to that, that'd be great.
I'm not even sure I'll have to open up another screen. Okay. So
there we go.
I can see what everyone else can see. Excellent. This makes sense.
It just happened. That was amazing. Okay.
Thank you, producer.
Yes. So this is and sorry if you guys hear kids in the background. I do have children running around like little amazing maniacs. So we'll just have to roll with it. So format and objectives. Okay, we already mentioned this, but every 2 weeks, this is to show off progress from the last 2 weeks. We're going to discuss what we're working on next. go over any roadmap updates, and answer any questions. And of course, we have to put in our big disclaimer here. We provide transparency into where we're at and where we've been, but we do see through a glass dimly lit when it comes to the future. So we will be talking about, future. We'll be talking about projections, where we're going with various degrees of confidence. But this isn't intended to stoke any hype or get anybody's hopes up. This is intended to show you guys, our trajectory. I was watching Blue Origin. I don't know if anybody saw that, but I was watching Jeff Bezos launch into space this morning. The first manned flight, Blue Origin, went above the Kármán line on YouTube Live. It was amazing. And they show you the trajectory, and of course, that's not, they don't have disclaimers there. They've got to be on a trajectory, but we do have a disclaimer. So
they're not tied to a cryptocurrency. When moon?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Although a lot of people are asking when moon in their space too.
That's right.
First of all, a few resources. Okay, EdenOnEOS. Learn more about us. Go to EdenOS.org. Really good, resources there. There, you'll also see references to these other resources. So we do have our public Eden Wiki at wiki.eoscommunity.org. That's going to give you deeper insights, more up-to-date insights into our progress and other things. Also, our Eden GitHub. So if you're a developer and you want to see where the action is happening, get in there, github.com/eoscommunity/Eden. We've got nice little technical Kanban boards set up and GitHub projects. We've got issues. If you do have an issue and you want to drop it in there, have an idea, want to drop it in there, do so. If you want to contribute, okay, reach out to us. We also have a dev Telegram channel that you can join. Reach out to us, and we've got stuff that we need help on. So this is an open source project. So our roadmap here, of course, V01, you guys saw this graphic a couple weeks ago. V01 was about community formation, bootstrapping, invitations, the member portal, etc. Over here, our member induction enhancements, and actually I didn't update this. That should be a green emoji check mark, because we've moved on. The "We Are Here" flag, it used to be like right here. Now it's over here. And so that's what we've been working on the past 2 weeks, is figuring out how to move this bar and this dot along with this text over several pixels to the right. And I'm glad to say we've achieved that. That's a joke, sorry. I'm gonna, yeah. V02, okay, so we are here, V02, elections and funding. And this is really our first of two major elections milestones. And this is what we're working on currently, all about making sure that, everything that you guys saw this last weekend in the trial election actually gets done in an automated fashion, on-chain, facilitated by our EdenOS front end. Yeah, and that's what V02 is about. Beyond that, okay, where we're going, we'll have this V03 milestone, enhancing elections. We'll be taking a lot of the learnings and feedback and from the first elections that we have on chain and implementing them here, improving accounting with how funds are moving throughout Eden and without Eden. Yeah, basically better visibility into past election results, accounting, and more, and then onward. So here's the green check mark I was talking about. Member induction enhancements. This is really what we had been working on over the past few weeks, okay? And I'll show you some screenshots of this work. It's all about, displaying the Eden treasury balance. We have now induction checklists. A lot of people were having troubles during the induction process with maybe making sure they had accurate social links, or that their profile photos conformed to the guidelines that we set forth for Eden members.
And these are all live then. So
this is all, yeah, this is all live now.
That's a quick turn. I mean, that stuff came up a couple weeks ago. That's excellent.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll look at that a little bit more closely, but just high level, you know, we've provided correction and validation for social links. We do now have the ability for you to resign if you have to. So if you do make a big mistake and that, you know, we go through reviewing that, we may determine that you've got to resign, but you can be reinducted. We've got an action now that will allow you to do that in the smart contract. And then, you know, we've made enhancements to our IPFS photo and video uploads. So people were, well, we'll get into that in a moment. So first of all, Eden Treasury balance, and you guys may have already seen this in the UI. We have in the bottom right some community stats showing the current Treasury balance in EOS, along with active members, pending invitations, etc. That was some low-hanging fruit there.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's a prerequisite for elections, right? That's one of the main things that's going to be distributed depending on the outcome of the elections. So we've got to show that first. This might be a little small. I don't know if you guys are viewing this on a large screen. That's great. If not, we can provide links to these screenshots. But during the induction process, you were asked to review your Eden profile, but you weren't really given an opportunity as someone being inducted to do that until later in the process. And so there was a little bit of disconnect there. Now, whenever you are coming into Eden, after you fill out your profile, you've been invited, you fill out your profile, and you push OK, you're taken to this next step, a new step here, where you've got your profile up at the top and you're asked several questions. So is your face clearly visible? Is it large enough that you can be easily identified, that you're not wearing a mask or sunglasses? The second question, I guess it's not really a question, it's a statement that you're attesting. I have clicked or tapped on each social link above and affirm that all links are working properly. My profile statement is accurate and complete to the best of my knowledge. And all social handles I have provided belong to me. And I understand and acknowledge that by submitting my profile, I'm publishing my information permanently, irrevocably on a public blockchain. Now we know this gentleman here in this picture is going to have to go back and make some adjustments, obviously. I don't think that he probably owns the Boom Twitter handle. If he does, that's probably worth quite a bit. But anyway, yeah, a little test here.
And now these are all, because I think I recall before it was just kind of one checkbox to affirm a bunch of things. And now we've really broken it out so it's extra clear for people to go through and really read each one, which is, I think, is a great change.
Yeah, yeah. And, a lot of this came directly from feedback from the Eden members channel. We've got a Telegram channel where people give feedback and we try to listen to that. So a couple of people came up with the idea of actually breaking these out into separate checkboxes. Heck, while we were on the live stream 2 weeks ago, I think it was Alexandre Berger who said, well, Brandon, have you thought about putting a little icon next to the social links above that show that when you click them, you're not going to lose your place. It's going to open up in a new tab. And so you can see, right there, we have that. So we try to be responsive to your feedback in the community. It's valuable. And, in the counsel of many, there is wisdom. And I don't want to leave that on the table. And so, that's part of what this call is about, and certainly your participation in the conversations in Telegram, and I think now Slack. We've got Slack firing up. So that's the left-hand side of this screen. On the right-hand side, we ask endorsers or witnesses several questions as well. So whether that's the person who invited you, or the two people who are in that induction ceremony video call with you, they've got to vouch for you, but they also are vouching for the accuracy and completeness of your profile information. So we can see here on the right, carefully review the prospective member's profile below as per the following checkboxes. If anything needs to be corrected, ask the invitee to sign in and make the required corrections. Chris, I think you helped come up with some of this language. In fact, I was having trouble. So
you gave me the chance to opine on that. So yeah, thank you. Hopefully, you can blame me now. That's
that's where I was going. I was trying to exculpate myself. Right?
That's awesome.
No, thank you. That was really helpful. So the first checkbox, right? You've got to assert that the person in the profile photo is the same person that appeared in the induction ceremony video call, that their face is clearly visible in the image, etc. And that you visited each social link below and affirm that all links are working properly and appear to belong to the invitee. And then, of course, either the witness, one of the witnesses, or the invitee, or inviter rather, one of the witnesses or the inviter uploaded that induction ceremony video, and we asked them to review it, make sure it's the right one, assert to that, and then apply their endorsement. So several layers of checks right there.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah. One of the things that we were seeing, right, most common mistakes, at symbols were being included in social links. So instead of someone typing in just boom, they would type in @boom. That was tripping us up. Or maybe they would paste their entire LinkedIn profile URL instead of just the username or the handle portion of that. So that proved to be some pretty low-hanging fruit for us to correct. We now automatically trim user input down to just the username and handle when we can pull that out, right? So we're shaving off @signs, we're shaving off entire links except for the handle. And we apply that transformation to, what is that, to paste profiles to? Oh, that's supposed to say to post, no, to pass profiles to. I have an extra E on there. So some people had made this mistake in the past, not in the paste, but in the past. And we were able to apply the same logic to those past profiles. So if your links weren't working in your profile, go back and look now and let us know if they're still not working, but they should be working for the most part there.
That's great. And then, of course, the NFTs won't be corrected because those are immutable, but at least the profile will be correct. Is that right?
It turns out there wasn't really ever a problem with the NFTs themselves when it came to the links. So the NFTs contain a few pieces of information, right? It contains a hash that points to your profile image. So it includes your profile image by reference. It includes, in the same way, your induction video ceremony by reference. And then it includes just a blob of JSON. And so this JSON isn't in the NFT itself being interpreted. It's just there. So as a human, if you want to go look at the JSON that's in the NFT, right, or that's referenced technically by the NFT, you're not going to get tripped up in the same way as our EdenOS interface was getting tripped up, because you're going to see, oh, that's a link, and you're going to paste a link into your browser. Or you're going to see, oh, he put an @ in front of it. Well, I know how to find him on Twitter with an @ in front of it. But our interface, our UI, isn't a human and didn't have the advanced AI that we've layered on since then over the interface, right? Neural learning engines and just kidding, right? Buzzwords. We all love buzzwords in this space, but no, these are like if-then statements. It didn't have that, and so our UI was getting tripped up, making it to where the links aren't going to the right place. So yeah, NFTs weren't ever screwed up.
Awesome.
But the UI is now behaving a little bit more nicely.
Okay. Yeah, keep the buzzwords coming. That's a hype building type of stuff. So we love that, right?
Yes, yeah. By the way, we're sprinkling some blockchain on this too. If you're interested in moon Lambos.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, let's go on here. So this is the next one that we've been working on. So you've always had the ability to burn NFTs. Okay, you can go into Atomic Assets and do that. That's nothing new. You can see the burning heart icon that I put here, or emoji. I'm starting to learn how to use emojis, so forgive me if I overuse them.
We're probably
out of my
Yeah, we're a similar vintage, so we both have the learning curve here.
Yeah, a little out of my comfort zone, but I'm trying, guys. I promise I'm trying.
Yeah.
So look, you could always burn NFTs. There now is, though, a new contract action that allows an Eden member to resign. So if you do get into a bind with your profile and the decision is made that it's best for you to, just walk away from that one and start afresh, we do have a contract action, and we can help you execute that action. Eventually, we're going to have that exposed in our EdenOS UI in our interface as an option there. It's not yet exposed in the UI. And I have leaves next to the new contract action, allowing an Eden member to resign because you're leaving.
Yeah, I was going to say falling off the tree.
Yeah, but you'll be leaving in that case. So, yeah,
I get it. Ta-ta-ta.
Yeah, see, our vintage is also there with the dad jokes. So
yeah,
leave that one on the table. Finally, the fourth one here, contract actions. Oh yeah, I already said that. They can be called directly from now. And IPFS improvements, okay? So this is a little bit of fixing an error or an issue that existed. It was a little bit of working on reducing our number of dependencies, our dependence on other centralized systems. And it was a little bit of posturing for elections coming up, okay? So this had a really nice alignment here. So before, whenever you would attach your profile image and submit that, or the video of your induction ceremony, the browser would upload that to IPFS using Infura, which is a free public service for uploading items to the IPFS network. But it is a centralized system. If Infura ever decides to turn off the tap, well, we're kind of stuck, and we've coded that to work with Infura. So it's going to take us, it's going to be kind of difficult for us to fix that, right? There might be some downtime, something like that. Or in the meantime, people might have to upload those to IPFS manual. Not optimal. The other issue is that once it's uploaded to Infura, there's really no guarantee that those assets are going to stay around on the IPFS network. And so we had a second dependency, pinata.cloud, which basically I don't call our backend, I guess it is our backend. We have some serverless functions that will look at the transaction that's associated with that that asset that's being pinned, would make sure that that transaction is one that we care about, it's whitelisted by the Eden contract. And then it would look to Infura, look to IPFS and say, okay, I see it there. I'm actually gonna duplicate that in our own Pinata account. Well, now we've gotten rid of Infura entirely. So 50% of our dependencies there, if you will, or our I guess, centralized specific dependencies that are on a centralized entity, let's put it that way, are gone, okay? And heck, let me just jump to the end, right? A guiding principle of what we're doing here with Eden is we want to deliver a user experience that is competitive with modern full stack applications while protecting and maximizing the independence of the Eden community, right? We could be, look, we could have a database. We could be uploading these images to our backend. We could be serving them chunked down, perfectly from our database, and we could be frolicking in a nice green field together or interlocked with and then all of a sudden, the overlords come and squash it because it's centralized. That's not what we want. We want to create, and look, if you've read More Equal Animals,
exactly,
Dan's book, right? This is an exercise in independence, okay? And so EdenOS development is no different. And it means that if we have to go a little bit more slowly, we will for the sake of independence, right? If we have to work into that user experience that we all want, over time, because we're prioritizing independence, then we will. So going back to that, right?
That's great to see. No one's going to complain about that. More Equal Animals is a guiding ethos to kind of what we're doing here. So working towards independence, that's excellent to see.
Yeah. So now what we've done is, I'm going to say this first, right? It might sound initially like we've introduced a new dependency, but what we've actually done is we've created a small Node.js server in a Docker container. And we have this running now on a Jelastic cloud instance served via Massive Grid right now. That takes, we upload the asset, so the image or the video, directly to that service, and then send it directly to Pinata and pin it there. Now, it sounds like a dependency, but actually what it is we could deploy this to 20 different, it's just a Docker container, right? We could deploy this box to 20 different services now. And if Massive Grid goes down or they don't like us, we just change an environment variable and we're pointing to a new instance of it. It's doing the same thing. There's nothing special about this box. A different organization or entity could stand up the same box and we could point to it and it would do exactly the same thing without any dependency even on our team. So it's a new piece of infrastructure, but it's a piece of infrastructure that gives us a lot more independence, flexibility, just choices to leverage the free market of hosting solutions all around the world that are out there. You will see, okay, over time, this is just a step in the right direction. You'll see over time that we're actually going much farther than that whenever we start getting into our Clarion vision for true peer-to-peer independence, decentralization. We'll talk about that in a minute. We have a cool little demo that you guys will be able to see outside of this.
Cool.
So first one, reduce dependencies on third parties. We're doing that. The main reason we started doing this was because Infura has supposedly has 100 megabyte upload limit. And we've seen that our Zoom election round recordings can be 400, 500, 600 megabytes. So now we've overcome that limit. Users were also starting to encounter random errors at upload time as Infura has been improving on and changing their service offerings a little bit. And I had started to see that, I was offering tech support for people who were encountering those issues. They would upload an image and then they'd get an error and they tried again and still get the same error and think it didn't work and then come back 10 minutes later and it's there, right? So that's not a great experience. And like I said, this sets the stage for more improvements in the future. So that's the IPFS stuff. That is out there running. The UI is depending on it now. So yeah, a little bit of the enhancements from V01 plus and a little bit of the laying the groundwork for V02, elections and funding. One difference on this slide, so you guys saw this slide last time. One difference here is that we have a little round icon. We're not recycling this one. We're in progress with this one. I don't know. I have to explain the emoji because I'm still not that good at it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Good. Okay. But the other difference on the slide is summer 2021. Okay. So we are now projecting that we're going to have the V02 implementation of elections and funding working deployed on with the smart contract this summer 2021. Now I think things are moving pretty fast, but I'm generally overly optimistic, so we're gonna leave summer 2021 there. But this is, what is this? Okay, 6-month elections. Elections happen every 6 months. As an Eden member, you're asked to RSVP for the election. Yes, I'm gonna participate. No, I'm not gonna participate. And you'll be able to change that if your availability changes up to a certain point before the election begins. Randomized grouping of people into the various election groups at the various rounds of the election on election day. That's driven by entropy that we derived from Bitcoin blocks, right? All this proof of work going into making these Bitcoin blocks. We might as well piggyback on that amazing proof of work and use that to randomize our groups. That means that I can't just step in there and pull some strings to put 4 people in one group to minimize the chances of. I can't manipulate it, right? Zoom links. So we've done a lot of looking into Zoom, Jitsi, Microsoft, Google Meet, Microsoft
Teams,
yeah, whatever, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of really interesting options out there, but none of them provided the right mix of features that we want for the types of elections that we're trying to run here. So we are sticking with Zoom. We've got a POC right now where the idea is that if you are starting your round, you can sign in with Zoom from our UI. And if you're the first one that signs in and completes this, then you will create a Zoom link with your Zoom account. It gets encrypted, put on the chain, and everybody else in your group will be able to request that link, which automatically decrypts it, and everybody in your group has access to an open Zoom link, even if not everybody there has a Zoom account. And hopefully, yeah, it just works.
A question on Zoom then in the dependency piece. Is this like a attempt, a spot, a fix for now that maybe later becomes a more independent open solution?
Yeah, it is. So first of all, we could have done a really tight integration with Zoom that automatically starts recording for you. It then processes the recording and puts it into a queue that uploads the IP. We could have really automated a lot of that, but there was a cost in terms of dependence in doing so. It would mean that EdenOS was completely tied to our Zoom account, the account to which we have the keys. And if someone else out in the community wanted to spin up our EdenOS front end, then anybody using their front end wouldn't be able to participate in the same elections, okay? So we didn't go that far because we are thinking about independence. We are creating these Zoom links still under the accounts of our participants in the elections, which solves some technical problems of scalability for us as well. But what it means is that anybody could still spin up EdenOS separately, and people using their front end, using their IPFS box or whatever, can still participate in the same elections, right? So we're maintaining independence in that regard, but we are tied to Zoom to a degree, in that it's only a convenience factor though, okay? If Zoom decides, hey, I don't like this EdenOS stuff, and somehow they pull the plug on us, which is unlikely, we still have mechanisms that we're building into this that allow you to self-organize. So we are looking at having like a WebRTC chat right there in the EdenOS UI with your group of people in the stage of the election that you're in that moment in time. So, hey, the Zoom link isn't working, or Zoom is blocking me or threatening me or whatever, right? Not that Zoom do that. Oh, well, hey, let's all jump on this, Slack call I've got set up, or let's all jump on this. As long as you get a video and you record it and you've got that proof, elections can go on. But we want to try to minimize that back and forth as much as possible, because we know, and we saw this to a degree in the trial election on Saturday, right? As we know, as there's more manual communication that has to happen, there's more opportunity for confusion. And so, yeah, we've tried to relegate Zoom. Sorry, I'm talking a lot about it. We've tried to relegate Zoom to the place of being a convenience not to a place of being a dependency. Now, I've got to say the WebRTC chat thing isn't officially part of V02, but it is a stretch goal for us in V02. So if we can get it in there, we will. Otherwise, it might come in V03. But you've still got access to people's Telegram, right? Right there in the UI, you can reach out, you can organize outside of this, you know, hey, one of the people in the group wasn't able to decrypt the Zoom link. Reach out on Telegram. I can't get in. Oh, here's the link, right? You can still get in. There's a fallback.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, because the Zoom video call, I mean, there's so many other things that are securing and automating things that the video, like you say, could be any video recording. It doesn't need to be Zoom at all. That just is fulfilling one of the requirements, but not dependent on it. That's good to hear. That's great to know that we're not so married to Zoom.
Yeah, cool. The other note on that is we're building that in a modular way. So we can build modules for Jitsi when we think Jitsi has matured, or we've done enough work on top of it to get it to the point where it can facilitate the elections, or any of these other, things as well. Voting, video upload. Yeah, so while you're in your group, you'll be able to vote in our UI. All of that's logged on chain. And then the simplified funding, we talked about this last time, but 5% monthly of the Eden treasury will be distributed to the delegation, right? The people who won the last election. We're starting to actually change some of our terminology around this. So instead of like representatives, we're looking at the terminology delegates, your delegates. And instead of your representation or your leadership, it's your delegation, right? I think it's nice.
Yeah, that's a nice terms. Yep. For the election RSVP piece, is that something that will be able to be sort of queried and then presented in some sort of table form as we're leading up to an election, that everyone can kind of see who's participating, who's opting in, who's opting out?
So that's more of a V03 item.
Oh yeah. Not that it needs to be available, but just possible in the future.
Yes, and it's possible. It'll be possible in V02 as well. You'll be able to go to a block explorer like blocks.io or EOS authorities and do queries there. I think that it'd be interesting for as we're developing this, for anybody who wants to maybe create some dashboards that or leaderboards for us that are a stopgap until we can get these things into EdenOS proper. That might be an interesting project for anybody in the community, because I think our first selection, at least in terms of EdenOS, we might be riding a little blind. V03, here it is really where we start getting more of the visibility into what's happened in past elections, a better view into what's happening in the current election, and things exactly like that.
Okay.
Yeah. But you will be able to see your representatives, right? After an election is done, you'll be able to see your delegates. Thank you. I haven't updated that yet in the slide. You'll also be able to see during the election who won the last round, things like that. At least the last round that you were involved in, and follow your lineage all the way up to the board and then the randomly selected lead or chief.
Perfect. Thinking in this delegation, maybe is that we're going to change it from, we're not voting anymore, we're delegating. Because I know we in the past, it's come up that this term voting kind of gives people a preconceived notion of what the Eden process is and as it relates to democracy. But maybe instead of calling it voting from now on, we'll call it delegating. I like it.
Yeah. We will get to questions here in a few minutes. We're almost done with this slide deck. I promise, guys, we're almost done. Where are we, though, in terms of this V02 milestone? So most of the election actions are now in the smart contract and are complete. UI designs continue to evolve and mature, but most of that is also there and complete and actionable for us. We are already building out the shared UI components in the front end now. So all those pieces that appear in multiple places throughout this process, we're getting all that ready so that we can plug them into the UI at various ways. You actually have already, if you've been looking at EdenOS, already seen some hints at that. We've redesigned the member cards on the listing page, and that redesign isn't complete yet, but it is moving us in the direction, because these member cards are going to be factoring into various pieces of the election experience. Okay, so they're going to be reusable and composable and all of that. So we're working on UI. Like I said, we've successfully tested our Zoom API integration for meeting links, the POC for that. And we are actively working on encrypted meeting link sharing. We've got a PR open for that right now in GitHub. And like I said, investigating inline WebRTC chat for election participants in EdenOS. So yeah, we're almost done. We'll open up questions. I'm sure people have questions about elections piece of this here. Where we're going, okay, the future stuff. V03 has a lot of that, like the enhanced view into current and past election results that we were talking about. More detailed accounting of community, of delegate and individual member funds. Maybe new NFTs, annual collection dues, the ability to schedule elections earlier than 6 months, and even maybe movement of funds internally within EdenOS, and the encouraging of keeping those funds internal when possible. And we'll get to that in a moment.
What was I was just on the early elections. What does that mean? Just earlier than 6 months? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, right. So,
okay.
And we might have admin actions sooner than V03 that allow us to do this. But right now we're focused on enabling the regularly scheduled 6-month elections. So when Eden, is operating nominally in the future, you're going to have an election that's always scheduled. It's 6 months after the last election.
Yeah.
But if the head honcho resigns, right, the head chief resigns, there's a need for an early election. If the community grows by 10%, then an election needs to be scheduled 30 days out. There are certain
the bylaws, right? Whatever the bylaws dictate that would indicate a new election.
That's right.
Then we need to be responsive. I see.
Yeah. Before I go on to this other demo that I want to point you guys to, we've already talked about the guiding principle. Let's go ahead and open it up for questions.
Producer, do we have any questions?
Pretty silent at the moment.
Maybe they're not so much there yet. Yeah. That's okay. Well, do you want to move on to the demo then?
Sure. Yeah. I'm not going to run the demo here. Oh, there we have one.
Here's one.
Is Clarion considered capable to replace Zoom for elections?
Yes, that has come up. Is there going to be video aspects to Clarion? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, our vision for Clarion is a very robust peer-to-peer, open source, decentralized, distributed, all the buzzwords, right? Social network. And we envision that social network having audio, video capabilities as part of that peer-to-peer experience. When it gets there, then it's natural, I think, for Clarion to become that for Eden. And I think we'll see a really interesting coming together of Eden communities with the Clarion experience, even in ways that we can't yet predict. The vision for that is evolving. It's one I'm extremely excited about. But the answer is yes.
Well, how great, though, like you say, the synergies that will exist, it's the same team. So there's going to be some excellent synergies that come out of that, right? Like we're impressed with the Eden process and what comes of that. I think it's going to be just incredible to see what the Clarion team does with Clarion, with that track record of already developing EdenOS. I think it's excellent.
Great question. Any others?
For
All right.
V0, what was the timeline or anticipated timeline for V03? Is that end of year type stuff? If it's
V03, we haven't put a timeline on it yet. So, I mean, it's going to happen right after V02.
Yeah, understood. No pressure. I'm not, come on, when's it
and if V02 happens, you know, early, then V03 will start early. So, but yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay, cool.
Okay, no other questions yet. This demo, I'm not going to actually play the video here. I just want to speak to it and then provide the link. And producer, maybe we can put this link in the description of the video. But Todd Fleming, so we're always working on the here and now and in laying the groundwork for the future. And one example of that we already talked about is the IPFS work that we were already working on, right? It's something that was needed now, but it facilitates elections and future stuff. We're looking at WebRTC, et cetera. So we're experimenting. Todd Fleming, man, has been doing some really incredible experimentation. He's working on a POC. It's probably more than, knowing Todd, it's more than just a proof of concept. This thing is probably going to be, anyway, you can tell I'm excited about it. Right. Client-side chain state derivation in WASM. So one of the really hard things for creating truly decentralized applications, blockchain-powered applications, is state history. It's Lovejoy saying, "My name isn't producer, I'm a person. You can just call me Lovejoy." I'm sorry, Lovejoy.
We love you, Lovejoy.
We love you. That's right. One of the hard things, okay, for decentralized applications is state history. It's answering the questions that a blockchain, when properly leveraged, isn't great at answering. Okay. So I can ask EOS really easily, hey, what is the balance of this account? Okay. Or what is, you know, when did that action or when did that transaction happen? But to ask the EOS blockchain, hey, you know, can you give me the entire hierarchy of my delegation all the way up and down, you know, the chain? Or can you give me a view of the entire, you know, fractal governance structure currently in place based on this election and the view of the one before that and before that, right? These are much harder for a blockchain to directly answer. For us to do that in EOS, and EOS is a lot more powerful, okay, than most blockchains. We all know this. This is why we're here. EOS is a lot more powerful than most blockchains at doing this, but we have to be storing a ton of data that's been derived and really duplicated in chain tables. That becomes prohibitively expensive very quickly. It becomes, some would call it maybe misuse of blockchain. Blockchain is more tailored towards recording and time stamping and ordering events over time. It isn't even really opinionated as to what those events are, although it can derive some state from those events over time. The questions that we're asking that are more difficult for blockchain are really a function of those events over time. And so in the past, you've had a lot of blockchain apps set up a server, running a database, Postgres database, whatever, SQL database, Mongo, I don't know, it doesn't matter, but a centralized server, and it's connected to a node and it's replaying or playing as the blocks come in, all the blocks, and it's looking for the ones of interest. It's saying, oh, I saw an action for Eden in that block. Let me process that block and play it through my logic and then distill the information into my Postgres database, which is designed to answer the questions that I want, okay? And that works. It's actually kind of hard to do though, because you've got to run a node and it can be difficult to run a node. That node's got to be able to replay. You've got to catch up. There are other solutions out there, really great solutions from the community, like Defuse, their fire hose they've got stood up. You know, EOS Nation, I think, is running a community edition of that, and we're working with that. And there's others out there, Hyperion, etc. But you've got to have a way to reliably. I'm getting into the nitty gritty. That's what this time is for, though. You've got to have a way to process those and distill them. What's the problem when you have a centralized database? You know, and you've got the keys to that database, and then your app is looking into that database. Well, number one, you guys are trusting us. We can go in, we can change a few bits in that database. You know, well, turns out Chris Barnes didn't win. Brendan Fancher won. I mean, we'll be found out, right? Because people are going to be looking. We've got a savvy community, but there might be communities that aren't as savvy, right? And there could be some lag between when I'm found out and when I'm, you know, that's not good. The other thing is, right, independence. You don't have independence. If another team wants to stand up a front end to Eden, then they've got to also stand up all of the infrastructure required to derive the state. And I guess they could do that, but now they're running servers. I guess the barrier to entry for competing in the open marketplace for the Eden community, that barrier is raised, right? And we don't want that. We want to avoid that. And so we're looking at a lot of ways of improving. We've looked at certain solutions. There's a blockchain technology called the Graph for Ethereum, but I think it's more chain agnostic, and it does some really neat stuff. If you guys are interested, go check it out. And it could I think work with chains like EOS.io. But we also understand, right, that Clarion has got to be peer-to-peer. Clarion needs to be able to get the pieces of state and chain information, blocks or whatever that it's interested in from other peers in the community. We can't all be relying on a few central RPC nodes or history endpoints for that information, right? We want to get as mesh-like as possible in this Clarion future. And so that's what this demo that you guys can watch is really about. So the idea here that he's been working on, I think it's genius, is web clients. So you're running your little front end, your web app, and web clients, your browser, for instance, can request a snapshot of the chain of the state for your EdenOS app from a node or a server that's out there. And then beyond that, the node will start streaming you the blocks that you're interested in to your web client. You're not taking in the whole, you know, EOS blockchain and trying to derive your state from that. You're just getting the blocks every once in a while that are Eden specific, that aren't answering all the hard questions. They're just showing you what Eden events are happening over time, okay? And your web browser, your app is receiving those streaming in. Then in your browser, you have a WASM engine running under the hood that's receiving those, and it's deriving the application state from those blocks to be able to answer the questions that you're looking for. And so your source of truth for the answers to the questions that your EdenOS front end needs is right there in your browser, built up directly from verifiable chain transactions and actions. And then JavaScript can query that client-side WASM all within the browser via GraphQL to say, get the whole hierarchical representation of your delegation, or you know, get the whole what is it, a ledger of transactions that, you know, Chris has done as a head chief or whatever, a member of the board, right? And display that to you. So we're slowly moving all of that out of the world of centralized servers and more into the world of your client, your browser, your computer. You are the more and more the source of truth. We hope that in V03 we'll be able to depend on this or a derivative solution like this to answer a lot of those questions that we're talking about here in V3, right? But you can see we're moving in that direction of delivering a user experience competitive with modern full stack applications while protecting and maximizing the independence of the Eden community. That moves us into the realm of what Clarion is about as we're working on EdenOS. So yeah, grab the link if you're interested. It is a bit technical, but it's really cool. Encourage you guys to watch it. And that's awesome. Spiel.
Yeah, so this feeds sounds like directly into the underlying architecture of sorts of Clarion then, where it's based on individual machines, individual user machines, individual computers. That's pretty cool. That's very cool.
Any more questions out there? Do you envision EdenOS and Clarion as potential game changers for blockchain activity in general, especially on the EOS blockchain? And I'd take it a step further. I think EdenOS, let me say Eden more generally, hopefully becomes a game changer for the real world, right? For society. I think certainly we go from EOS to blockchain in general to, just normal society. Why couldn't we run elections like this out in the real world? ClarionOS, certainly. I think ClarionOS is going to be an EOS thing, but I think it's going to be more than that. I think it's going to hopefully serve a much wider swath of the online community out there, and even bring people into Eden and into EOS.
So that's been asked. So does Clarion in fact have some sort of reliance or interaction dependency with the EOS blockchain, with the EOS mainnet?
As we're talking about it now, yes, it does have.
Wow.
It does have. You'd use two words. I wouldn't say a reliance or a dependency. I would say interaction, strong interaction. That's how we're envisioning it now. Now, we're still building out the roadmap for ClarionOS, so it's hard for me to talk about that because the true answer is, I don't know what that interaction is going to look like. But yes, I mean, our mission is to provide the world with tools for life, liberty, property, justice, independence, and that's what we intend to do.
Yeah, that's great. That's great news. Yeah, and a lot of people have asked about that. It's great to hear that the Clarion project will relate. Here's another one. I don't see a strong product market fit for EdenOS, and I don't understand why there's emphasis on it. I don't understand the desire to separate. I don't see a lack of decision-making org structure. I don't see a strong market fit.
I think that got cut off.
A strong
lack
market.
Of decision-making org structure or funding allocation structure on any other EOS.io-based chain. I see a need for EdenOnEOS. Just my opinion. My approval is not necessary. Yeah, hopefully none of our approval is necessary. Yeah, I mean, EdenOS is a front end that facilitates EdenOnEOS, and as long as it's useful, I think it'll be used. But I think certainly, to Kevin's point, Eden isn't designed to be dependent on technology. Eden is designed to, you could do fractal governance with a deck of playing cards. So I think it's a very astute point. We certainly are not in the business of making EdenOS a dependency for Eden or for fractal governance. So I am actually in alignment a lot with, I think, what you said, Kevin, there. But yeah, I mean, hopefully what we provide in an actionable front end for this is of value and will be used for this. And I'd probably have to read the question again it's probably over here in comments to address further. I don't see a strong market. Yeah. Fit for EdenOS. I don't understand why there's an emphasis on it. So, separate. I don't know what you mean by desire to separate, but
yeah, the market fit is, I mean, we're going to leverage it and be less dependent on what we had to go through on Saturday, where it's a lot of manual interaction to facilitate these elections. So the more we can automate, the less we need to trust, right? Because it's all going to be on chain. The easier it allows for funding, and then this is an EOS thing. So, it allows for more clean funding and tracking of funding and where funds are going, trying to maintain the EOS funds to be spent within the Eden community, hence the idea of a tariff. If you want to send EOS from an Eden election outside of Eden, there'll be a fee associated with that. So I think that's excellent for increasing community involvement and encouraging others to want to join Eden. If you create products or services that other projects that are going to be looking for funding through Eden, if you can help facilitate some of those projects from coming to fruition, then you join Eden and your services might be leveraged and you become a cheaper alternative to someone who's not in Eden because there's a tariff. I think there's a lot of reasons why there's a product fit here between EdenOS and EdenOnEOS, personally.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah. And in Dan's book, it can just be a deck of cards. I mean, he explains it in here wonderfully that the technology is not required for the process. However, technology is useful. Yes. I'm not sure if there's many other questions. I don't see anything else coming up. I think we're going on an hour here. I think you've done an excellent job, Brandon. I really do appreciate what you're bringing to us in this transparency. Do you have any closing thoughts on where we're going, next steps, what we should look forward to 2 weeks from now?
No, just another update like this, and hopefully we'll have a lot more exciting progress to share. And just really again grateful for and in need of the community's feedback and contributions as we go. So
excellent. Well, yeah, thanks for those listening in, and certainly drop any questions you may have into the chat, and we'll make sure Mr. Fancher here gets those. And I do believe Mr. Lovejoy will be back next Tuesday interviewing, I think Mike Manfredi is the alternate week. So that'll be about fractal governance. And so by all means, subscribe, like, all those great social things, and there'll be many more coming your way. So please stay tuned as we work through the ever evolving EdenOnEOS journey.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.